Oh, I said you.
Okay, so the webinar has started and we are recording.
Yes, this guy.
You brought in the speaker?
John saved the day.
Right now too.
Well, you know, these engineers.
Remember, you volunteer for this. There's an IT issue.
He missed it. He has a.
Oh, I know, he told me, we talked I forgot what meeting I ran.
Functioning. I am very impressed.
Lots of coffee. Maybe you need an office.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh. Anybody there?
Yeah.
Okay.
This time. Robert, who?
Tilden,
No, it's not on yet.
I'm checking.
Okay.
Must be a boring agenda today. No members of the public here
Oh, there's 4.
online.
Yeah.
Just.
I'm gonna touch it. It's 9 o'clock. I don't know if we'd like to call meeting to order. Yeah.
In order. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the quarterly Santa Monica Basin GSA meeting. So I'm gonna look at the agenda.
There's your agenda.
I guess we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. It's a small tiny flag for 20. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'll do a roll call vote. Director Welsh,
Here.
Director Singletary,
Here.
Director Natoli,
Here.
Vice Chair Nguyen,
Here.
Chair Wang.
Here.
Great. We have a quorum, so we can begin. The next item is disclosure of ex parte communication for board members.
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report. Thank you. Consent items, approval of minutes from the April 16, 2025 meeting. Do we have questions, comments, revisions?
Only comment, good job, as always.
This comment, I see I got nominated for an ad hoc meeting.
Okay.
Not here, it's me.
You snooze, you lose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Teaches me to take vacation.
That's right, how dare you?
So if there aren't any other items, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Great. John, you seconded?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Director Welsh,
Yes.
Director Singletary,
Yes.
Director Natoli,
Aye.
Vice Chair Nguyen,
Yes.
Chair Wang.
Yes.
Okay, we have public comment. So I'm going to put the timer on. We have 2 public commenters. Ms. McPherson, please go ahead, unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you. First of all, I would like to let you know that with regard to the work order for that failed outlet down on the west end of Bayona Channel on the southwest side, it has still not been fixed. There is a work order for getting it fixed because it's allowing saltwater intrusion into a predominantly freshwater wetland area. It's not allowed. There's no permit for that. But that still has not been fixed. I have a question also with regard to Well, I'll let you know that the drains, there's an August deadline for sealing permanently the illegal drains. The Grassroots Coalition litigated against both Playa Vista and the CDFW. We prevailed. The Coastal Commission came in and they now have to be sealed permanently, and that should be done this upcoming month, in the first part of the month. Additionally, I have a question regarding the vault boxes at Playa Vista. We did have a report regarding the water quality is too contaminated to be sent into the storm drain to go into the Baina Channel. That was a DWP issue of clearing all of those vault boxes, which caused power outages at Playa Vista, which one of the residents in particular got stuck and had to be saved by the fire department. But we would like to find out what is the status of all of that and the water quality that is in the vault boxes, which is from the groundwater there. The other thing is, let you know that their class action lawsuit has been filed against Essex of Playa Vista. And there is another lawsuit ongoing. It includes all of phase 1. So we expect to see that. And this also involves the dewatering of the site as far as the failed gas mitigation systems. And I think that's it, except that I thought that Director Nguyen or Vice Chair Nguyen was to be chair. And is that inaccurate?
So Chair Wang was not present last meeting, so Vice Chair Nguyen was running the meeting.
But this meeting, is it not Chair Nguyen?
No, it's Vice Chair.
That's correct.
Oh, so.
Thank you. The next public speaker is Margaret Griswold.
Margot.
Sorry, Margot Griswold. Margot, can you hear us? Can you unmute, please?
Margot, if you're speaking, we still cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
You can, yes.
Good morning. It's been a few meetings I have missed, but in reviewing the annual plan and other things, it's occurred to me that I'd like to comment on your public outreach, public participation. I find it a bit lacking. First, it would be nice if the board, the GSA, would identify themselves each time they're going to speak. It's hard to tell, even when you're in the room, who they are. We go to a lot of meetings, so it's hard to remember faces. I would appreciate that. And also, I think the chair should be running the meeting in terms of deciding when to cut off public comment rather than Dudek, who seems to decide on their own. And I would like more follow-up in regard to public input. And as an example, we met, several of us nonprofits, with Gina Natoli 2 years ago. She made a list of questions based on our extensive meeting with her, actually 2 meetings. She brought those questions that she had to the board. And as she started to read them off, the attorneys said, oh, that we can't talk about that. We can't talk about this. But we've never know the reason why. We never have any answer to that meeting. We take it very seriously, our public participation, and I would have to go back to those minutes and the meetings to see what questions didn't get answered, but mostly about groundwater pumping upstream, which again was on the radar of the GSA just a couple of meetings ago, and then it is dropped out, the groundwater pumping that Patricia McPherson brought up from the Playa Vista project.
That's 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So the next item on our agenda, these are informational items. 7A, Dr. Weinberger, or
Yeah, if we could
Yeah.
forward to the. There we go. Great.
We don't have those two public comments. Okay,
those were 2 public comments, yes.
thank you.
And yeah, so item 7A is related to the annual reports, which we discussed at the last board meeting. So this is a follow-on item to that. If you recall from the last board meeting and really from all of the board meetings prior to this, every GSA in the state has an obligation to submit annual reports on their groundwater conditions that they have measured in their basin or sub-basin to DWR by April 1st of each year. So this GSA submitted an annual report April 1st of 2025. That is the 2025 annual report. Just because of how water years work, that annual report covers water year 2024. So water year 2024 ended September 30th, 2024. DWR and Sigma provides the GSAs with a little time to gather the data, analyze the data, prepare a report, and then submit by April. This annual report was the 4th annual report submitted by this agency. The first one began in 2020, was submitted in 2022, immediately following the GSP. So we had 2022, 2023, 2024, and 2025. DWR did not actually provide written comment on the first 2 annual reports. At that time, they were still reviewing all of the GSPs that had been submitted in 2022. So they received the annual reports. They did not provide written feedback on those first 2 annual reports. They did then approve the GSP that was submitted by this agency. Starting last year, DWR began to provide written feedback on the annual reports as well. And so last year for the 2024 annual report, the agency received a letter saying that DWR had reviewed it and that at that time, no further information or action was required by the GSA, that it met the sustainability goal set forth in the GSP. The reason that we're talking about this, and I guess the last bullet on this slide is actually out of date. At the time I prepared the slide, the DWR was still reviewing this year's annual report. Friday, they provided a letter with their review of the annual report that had the same information that they provided the previous year. After the annual report was submitted and before DWR issued their letter of review, in May, there were several comment letters that were posted to DWR's Sigma portal. So that's DWR's website where they gather all of the information for every GSP, every GSA in the state, and you've got it divided out by GSA. So the Santa Monica GSA submits the GSP to the Sigma portal. They submit the annual reports to the Sigma portal. They submit any formal information to DWR via the Sigma portal. And the public has a chance to comment on the portal as well. So that's providing a public record of comments on the reports that have been submitted to DWR. So there were 5 actual, should say 5 letters that were submitted on the 2024 and 2025 annual reports. All of those letters were submitted in May of 2025. So one letter was submitted twice for the 2024 annual report, and 2 letters were submitted on both the 2024 and 2025 annual reports. Comments focus on the Ballona wetlands and the legality of the GSA. I'm not going to go into the details of the comments. All of those comment letters were provided in the board packet for your review, and they're posted online for everyone to see. All of those comments we are planning to incorporate in an appendix to the upcoming periodic evaluation that we'll really be discussing more at the next board meeting. It's a little placeholder for that. But every GSA is required to evaluate their GSP at a minimum of every 5 years. So the first periodic evaluation of this GSP will be due to DWR in January of 2027, and we'll begin working on it at the end of this year. So comments that have been received over the 5-year period following submittal of the GSP will be incorporated in an appendix to that first periodic evaluation document. Now, I mentioned on the last slide that that was out of date because on Friday, the Department of Water Resources provided the same letter or similar letter to what they provided last year, stating that they had reviewed the water year 2024 annual report and determined, quote, that no further information or action is required at this time. And I'm going to further quote from the letter in the third paragraph. They say, quote, following review of the 2024 annual report, the department has determined that the GSP continues to be implemented in a manner consistent with achieving the subbasin's sustainability goal as described in the GSP. The department reached this conclusion based on a review of information in the annual report, any public comments submitted to the department regarding this annual report, and other relevant information regarding the subbasin conditions available to the department. And that letter is signed by Paul Gosselin, the Deputy Director for Sustainable Groundwater Management of DWR. So that's the update on the annual report. Not at that point, I'm happy to take questions or comments from the board on this item.
Any questions, comments from the directors? So if I may, just to clarify, just to confirm, because this item came in late, I think that's why we had to amend the agenda to add this letter from DWR in here. DWR didn't consider all the public comments that they received, which is attached to this packet, and they determined that we're complying with all regulations and managing the basin sustainably. Is that correct?
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion before we go to public comment? So we have 2 public commenters, Margot Griswold, followed by Patricia McPherson. So Ms. Griswold, I'm going to ask you to unmute. Go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Well, it's curious that the DWR would send such a letter, since I'm looking at their summary of your plan, and they've asked you to do particular things as soon as possible. And I don't think you've done them. For instance, providing seawater intrusion conditions in the basin. You have not put in a well or 2 wells, as you probably should, to look at the saltwater intrusion potential in the near the Ballona wetlands. This is a gap even identified that was found in the appendix of your plan. That's not been done. We never hear anything more about it. And you've been asked by DWR to do that. So, you know, I have to question also their dismissal of any surface water connection with the Ballona wetlands. They seem to dismiss quite a bit that we believe is important. And if you read any other plan in the state, we review a lot of them, your annual plans are like a little checklist. At least as far as I can read them, getting them off the DWR portal. So I would disagree entirely. You're not following the recommendations of approval of the plan originally by DWR. And I would like to know more about your efforts to get a well to monitor, because you don't even have baseline. You can't even put it in your model for seawater intrusion, which, last time I looked, it was an important thing on the coast of California for water, for groundwater. But that's just me, I guess. And, what about the wells? First, you want to see them, you want the information, and then you don't want to know what the dewatering of those many, many wells that are causing so much problem in the Playa Vista project.
I'm sorry, your time has expired.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Patricia McPherson, if you will unmute, please. You can go ahead and unmute.
Ms. McPherson, if you're speaking, we cannot hear you yet.
You're still on mute. There's nothing I can do from my side, so I've asked you to unmute. So if you could please unmute.
All right, no more. Is that the only two public comments?
Yes, those are the only two public
All
comments.
right.
Hello, I'm
Oh,
here.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, I had your report in front. Thank you. Yes, to follow up on what Margot, Dr. Griswold, who is a restoration ecologist.
We cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
All right, thank you. I would like to follow up on what Dr. Griswold had to say. She's one of the foremost restoration ecologists in the state, recognized by CDFW. The fact is I agree with everything she had to say. There is a list that this group is supposed to fulfill ASAP, none of which has been addressed by this group, that has to do with the lower portion of the basin. This is similar to the water board interface that is ongoing with this group. I was given a name to follow up on. I did. She said that her only interface is with the city of Santa Monica boundaries. It has nothing to do with the lower portion of the Santa Monica Basin, and does nothing to do with Playa Vista. So there are many things that you have not done, and apparently DWR has reiterated the fact that that all needs to be done, and yet it hasn't been done. There is interface regarding saltwater intrusion that you have not also followed up on. We have asked you to interface with the water board, who is active with Sigma Matters, and you have not done that either. The letters that were submitted, I don't know where they are on your website. I did not see them for an easy access for the public to understand what has been said. We would still like answers as to what is ongoing with the dewatering. DUDAC has told you that that is NPDES. That's not an answer. We need to know what are the volumes that the water board is taking away and sending to wherever it's being sent. In addition to that, we have all of the gas mitigation systems dewatering that you have not addressed whatsoever, and neither has DUDEC, and we have continued to raise this for the past several years, including with the meetings with you, Ms. Natoli. So we continue to ask for these issues to be addressed, that you summarily said you were not going to address them and never provided a reason as to why you were not going to address them. And in fact, Ms. Natoli, you said that it was decided at a meeting, but I provided to DWR those meetings, the videos, and at no time was it ever discussed, and no time was it ever voted on to not do it until that last meeting where you just said, we're not going to look at it. These are all issues that are very important with regard
Yes.
to dewatering. Is someone ask me a question, or was I interrupted, or?
Yeah, your time has expired. You had 10 seconds. And so we've allowed you to go over that 10 seconds, but your time has expired.
Well, there is no interface with this group in the public.
Thank you.
Any other public comments?
No other public comments. So the next item on our agenda is item 7B, again, an informational item. Dr. Weinberger.
So again, this is a follow-up from the past couple of meetings on the criteria for a basin boundary modification request evaluation. So we remember, I believe it was at the February meeting, we had a discussion of potentially just talking to DWR about when they would open a basin boundary modification request process. And the idea there being that there is a large portion of recharge area that contributes fresh groundwater to this subbasin, to the Santa Monica subbasin, that is currently outside of the subbasin boundaries because it's up in the Santa Monica Mountains. And so DWR established a formal process by which groundwater sustainability agencies can request modifications to their boundaries, but that process all occurred in conjunction with the formation of groundwater sustainability agencies and planning for the first groundwater sustainability plans. So in February, we presented an overview of what that process looked like 5 years ago or more. At that time, the board directed DUDEC to reach out to DWR to see if the agency would be planning to open a new basin boundary modification request period in the future. We did that, and the response was that DWR is looking into it. They did not have a formal timeline to report at this time, but they had gotten requests from multiple GSAs, and so they were looking into the possibility of opening an additional basin boundary modification request process. We reported that at the last meeting, and the board said to us, great, good to know. Could you also then come back and provide us with a little more information on the criteria that DWR might use in that basin boundary modification request? So actually, Dr. Gold, if you could go back one slide there. So we did that, but all we have is what they used in the previous evaluations, right? So those previous modification requests were based primarily on the likelihood that basin could be managed sustainably, right? That's DWR's focus, is actual sustainable management. Second evaluation criteria was, if the boundary modification occurred, would that impact an adjacent basin's ability to manage their basin sustainably? And then whether or not there's a history of sustainable management in the proposed new basin area. So those were the three overarching criteria. And then if we could go to the next slide. There are two types of requests that can be submitted. One is a jurisdictional request and the other is a scientific request. And so the materials that they review under those two different types are a little bit different. For the scientific modification, that's a modification that's saying there's a request to add, delete, or move a basin boundary based on our understanding of the subsurface. So is there a geologic reason that maybe historically two basins were divided, but now we know more about them and water flows freely across that artificial boundary? We can show that in the scientific understanding, and DWR would say, oh, great, if you want to take that boundary out and you can manage that as one basin, that makes sense. So they're looking at what are water levels, how does pumping in one area affect pumping in another, those kinds of things. Additionally, there could be a jurisdictional request that's a little separate. So it's not that geologically anything that has changed, but maybe jurisdiction over a basin has changed and agencies are working together in a different way, and it makes sense to move a basin boundary. And so they'll actually look to make sure that any modification to the boundary would promote sustainable management in some way. So if we go to the next slide, this is just more detail on that, right? So what would they be looking at under a scientific request? They'd look at the hydrogeologic conceptual model. They'd look at maps and documents that support subsurface interpretations on the presence or absence of a flow boundary. So if there's a boundary and flow in the subsurface, then DWR would say, well, that's the edge of a basin. For jurisdictional requests, they look at the documentation of the current and historical conditions, as well as any coordination agreements, any sort of understanding that different jurisdictions have to continue to manage an area sustainably. And for any basin boundary modification, they will consider scientific or technical information that relates to the ability of that basin to achieve sustainable management, right? So that continues to be the overarching theme. Does it promote sustainable management of the groundwater? And the full list of criteria was more extensive. I didn't feel that I needed to read every single one to the board. But if you're interested, they are listed out in the California Code of Regulations under that subchapter 1, groundwater basin boundaries, and the references at the bottom of the slide. And that's all I have on this item without questions from the board.
Thank you for that. Any questions from the board members?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. This is Director Natoli. I would hope that we could put forth a strong jurisdictional modification argument, but I would also hope that at least there is some scientific evidence that what flows down from the mountains comes into the basin, doesn't necessarily run off into the bay. So I would hope we'd be able to have both types of information in our request, and I'd promote that we move forward with a request to modify the boundary when it's available for us to do so.
Any other comments, questions?
Clarification. I was curious, was there a requirement that it had to be subsurface? Did I see that somewhere?
Yeah, these are subsurface flows that are being dismissed.
So if we were to look at a scientific justification, only subsurface flow would be considered, not surface water?
That's my understanding, yes.
I have a question regarding this. I believe this came about from the recharge areas. Is that part of any basin right now? I forgot.
That is, the recharge area is not part of a basin because it's not defined in DWR terms as a stacked aquifer, series of aquifers that from which groundwater can be extracted.
So that area currently probably doesn't have any sustainable management plans or criteria, most likely, right? Because it's not defined as a basin. Is that a correct assumption?
It does not have anything under Sigma, to my knowledge. I don't know if there are other plans that may cover it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have any public comments?
We have one public commenter. So Patricia McPherson, I have asked you to unmute. If you could please unmute yourself, you have 3 minutes.
You just asked me to unmute. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Thank you. I would argue that surface and groundwater need to be looked at in this situation, and for any boundary framework here, it needs to include the entire Santa Monica Basin, which still is not being included. Everything that we are seeing from this group is dealing with the Santa Monica boundaries, the city of Santa Monica, as opposed to the Santa Monica groundwater basin, which includes all of the dewatering that is happening from the Playa Vista site, all of the dewatering that is being diverted and sent out to sea. It also includes the saltwater intrusion that is being allowed through unpermitted valves that are still broken. None of you are paying attention to that. It is extraordinary to see how every drop of golf course water was looked at and became a part of all of this, and that you are only looking at the city of Santa Monica's groundwater pumping from its drinking water. The groundwaters of Bayona, that whole southern portion, has multiple underlying freshwater aquifers. Granted, the deepest one, the Silverado, is a drinking, but the others are also potential drinking water aquifers, and they affect a groundwater dependent ecosystem of which this group is not paying any attention to, and that you have been asked by DWR to fulfill these requirements as soon as possible, and none of that has started. I would also like to add that this is the very first time that anyone has brought up these annual reports and the fact that the public can even respond to them. I think it's remiss on your part to not bring in the public and ask them to provide comments. But I think it's rather obvious also the fact that you are mute when we ask questions during these meetings and there is never a response. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public commenter is Margot Griswold. Please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yes, Margot Griswold, speaking actually for Los Angeles Audubon Society. I always forget to say that. I question your expanding the basin when, as pointed out by Patricia McPherson, you are not even dealing with the groundwater and surface water connections that you have within the basin as it's now defined. Again, you don't seem to be interested in all the groundwater that's been pumped, being pumped, will continue to be pumped at the Playa Vista site. This is not including the groundwater they're treating and putting in the Bayona channel. That will end one day when they clean that water sufficiently. However, the ongoing gas mitigation systems need to be kept dry. They will continue to pump groundwater, a lot of it, and you don't seem to be interested in that aspect. So, you know, let's take care of what we have within the boundary, please. And you've been asked to do so with the wells I mentioned earlier, to be able to model saltwater intrusion into potentially useful groundwater for drinking or other aspects we may need in the future. It's so short-sighted, so short-sighted. Please attend to the groundwater, the aquitard and the aquifers under the Bayona wetlands. Thank you.
Thank you. We
Any
have no
comments?
other public comments, yes.
All right. Any other questions or comments from you?
I had a quick question. Director Singletary, the extended area, is it all city of Los Angeles?
I can't remember. It might be city and county, or it might.
Yeah, some that's unincorporated.
I'm not sure.
Yes, some of that is unincorporated territory,
Okay,
so it's
yeah.
the county of Los Angeles.
Thank you. Thank you for that. We'll move on to the next item.
Yes, the next item is item number 7C. That is an update on implementation cost sharing framework, and this is a continued item. Dr. Weinberger.
I think we're moving on the screen
Yes,
here. There we go. There we go. Yeah, this is Jill Weinberger with DUDEC. Update on the implementation cost sharing framework. This has been an ongoing item for several meetings now, and please, from the different member agencies, correct me if I'm wrong or if your understanding differs from mine. But my understanding is that we have signed agreements on implementation cost sharing from both the city of Culver City and the city of Beverly Hills. That the city of Santa Monica's agreement is awaiting signature by the new city manager, so it's in the process to be signed. And that both for the County of Los Angeles and for LADWP, that agreement has to get agendized on the board calendar, and it's in the process of doing that, and they expect signatures later in the year.
Sounds about right. Bro.
This is Director Natoli, that's correct.
Director Quinn, that's correct.
So that's on the administrative cost sharing, right?
Correct, yes, to clarify, that's administrative costs.
I think the agendized implementation cost, I think, is the next one we tackle. You want to split it the same way? I mean, we're open for ideas and thoughts from other board members here, but I think implementation costs, originally my thought was resting on the metering ordinance. I forgot where we landed on that either, if we actually ended up adopting that. And to put the implementation costs essentially on the pumpers in the basin. But that, obviously requires the metering, enforcement's getting that data to be able to set up a cost sharing framework on the implementation costs. Otherwise, we could default to our administrative cost sharing model if you guys like.
Director Quinn, I would not like.
Just an idea.
Is there any further board discussion as we have public comment on this?
I mean, it seems like we're kind of stuck in this current model unless there's something else we can do about the pumping and figure out who's pumping how much, right? I don't know. I'm curious on your guys' thoughts on putting it on the pumpers, but that needs all the other pumpers in the basin to be able to be metered and report how much they're pumping as well for that to happen.
This is Director Natoli. I think that's the fair thing to do, putting some of it, well, at least most of it on the pumpers. But isn't the city of Santa Monica the biggest pumper in the basin?
Yeah, I mean, we're shouldering 100% of the cost right now anyway. So, I think it is fair for all the pumpers because we do have golf clubs that are pumping quite a bit from the basin that should probably contribute to manage the basins in a sustainable manner as well. Those are just my thoughts on that. But with that, we need support from other agencies on this board to help us with the metering and getting that put in place so we could then start implementing a cost sharing framework to implement the projects that we identified in the GSP.
Director Quinn, one of the alternatives would be, let's say there's a pumper that doesn't want to meter for whatever reason. We could probably estimate their production based on the size of their pumps or historical, whatever records they may have. And, they could have a choice between the two, whether it be we'll install the meter and demonstrate this is what we're pumping, or this is, an estimated amount like and that could be one alternative to consider.
Based on that, like essentially land use, right? What their estimated use can be if they extract groundwater.
Right.
Okay. Any other thoughts or comments on this item? Otherwise, I think we probably table this for the next meeting again. We might give staff or do some direction, maybe come back with what the potential estimated use and if we should approach some of those other agencies to have these discussions with them. If the board is open to that, to maybe have some initial discussions with potential pumpers in the basin.
Sure.
Yes. So just identified, we're allowed to give direction for next, or is that at the end? Direction for DUDEC to advance, like some work to advance the item.
Well, we can do it now because it's on the agenda, so we can discuss it for this item now.
If I may, Mr. Director, and I'd like to also add for some information on what the legal, I guess, authority that USA has to enforce these fees and on pumpers and what ways we can do that if even possible.
How do we collect, right?
Right.
Well, this is Director Natoli. I think we've had that discussion. But we could certainly get an update. We could certainly get an update from our consultant.
Just for clarification, are you looking for the legal authority discussion from DUDEC, or is that something you'd like your attorneys to?
I'm sure it's something the attorneys should discuss.
Thank you for the clarification.
Do you guys get all
Yeah.
the 3 items? Okay.
Sorry, I have, again, this is Dr. Weinberger. I have one other clarification. Chair, you mentioned a discussion of having initial conversations with pumpers. That would be a follow-on item. Is that something you want to happen between now and next meeting?
I think to start between now and the next meeting. to
And
initiate
do
those
you
discussions.
want DUDEC to coordinate with agencies before we have those discussions?
What do you mean by coordinate with agencies? Like the agencies?
Do you want me to call golf courses is what I'm, yeah, that is what I'm asking.
Yeah, I think it was probably with DUDEC and you know, with our GSA secretary as well. too.
Oh, okay, yeah. Thank you.
I'll volunteer myself if you guys want me to sit in on those two.
Right, because you don't have them.
Okay, we're going to turn it over to public comment. So Patricia McPherson, please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, I'm unmuted, yes?
Correct.
Hi, again, as far as cost sharing is concerned, you brought up the fact that there were agreements in the wings here. As public, we would like to know what those agreements are, because this all gets back to whether you're a JPA, going to be an MOA. I know that DUDEC at the last meeting claimed that you were had a memorandum of agreement, which was inaccurate. Which we would like to be informed as to how you intend to proceed as a group, because as you know, we believe that, and as many of you have said, you've had problems with your governance, and a lot of that appears to be because you're not a JPA or an MOA. It's extraordinary to look at the other reports from other groups that are working on basins, that are working very well together, and most are JPAs, and their reports are extraordinarily well done, and they have extraordinary outreach and work with the public and the stakeholders in their region. So this group is an anomaly with regard to that. When you're talking about the pumpers, that would include all of Playa Vista, and you are again excluding that in everything, which I'd like to know if we are supposed to be taking this to DWR to explicitly ask them to enforce that you do the things that you are required to do, that you're even saying at these meetings you're required to get this information and accountability from the pumpers, and yet you are excluding the southern portion of the basin. What are we supposed to do? I'd like to know if you would tell us, how do we make this happen? How do we have you start to participate with what's going on in the southern portion of the basin? You're not working with the water board. You're not working with any other agency that is involved in those issues. And we would like to know how it is that we can entice you, work with you to have you finally become a part. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is item 7D, update from the Alternative Government Structures Ad Hoc Subcommittee.
I do not have anything on this item.
No, this is Director Natoli. We don't have any reportable action at this time.
You have any public
I
comment?
think I finished speaking.
Yeah, correct. I do not have any hands raised for this item.
Thank you. Move on to the next item, is 8A.
Yeah, so we're on to action items now.
I think I have one background slide on this, and then I will hand it over to the attorneys because this was a discussion that they held. But the background on this is that 2 years ago, this board approved a well verification procedure along with a new or replacement groundwater production well form that applicants would fill out to request a consistency review for new groundwater production wells that would be drilled in the subbasin. In 2024, the governor issued an executive order N324 that rescinded a previous 2 executive orders around this item of coordination between GSAs and the well permitting authority in each basin. So at the October 2024 board meeting, the GSA board requested a review of the well verification procedures in light of the rescinding of that executive order. That review that Dudek presented found that the newer replacement groundwater well production form, which is also confusingly called the well permit application checklist, those are two of the same document, cite this executive order N323 that has since been rescinded. So we discussed those reviews, the review in February, and the board directed additional discussion to occur between member agency attorneys on this item.
I guess I'm curious, is there recommended action from the attorneys on this item?
I will leave that to the attorneys to discuss.
Each attorney should have discussed it with their client, and so now the issue is just a vote before the board.
But we're a public meeting, and so we need to discuss what those recommendations are so the public's aware.
Are we voting on those procedures no longer being valid to revise them, or I know I'm catching up. Director Nguyen?
Sorry, Director Nguyen. So because the 2 forms here cite the executive order, which has since been rescinded, my understanding is that it would be reasonable to rescind these 2 forms as well. And if there's no further discussion, then I would motion as such.
I would like to have Susan Cola opine. So go ahead, Susan.
For transparency's sake, we did discuss this item, and the recommendation is exactly as you see it here by the attorneys. It says consider rescission of a newer replacement groundwater protection well form for the reasons stated that the executive order is no longer in effect and the form is basically obsolete. So that is the recommendation, at least my recollection of the conversation, and that is why it is written as it is on item 8A for your consideration.
Thank you for that. So if I may just clarify, it's either a new or revised form so that we're not citing those. I guess we rescinded, just do away with it, or we revise the form so without referencing the executive order, right? One or the other.
Go ahead.
The recommendation is to consider rescission, not replacement at this time.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments on this item? I guess before we take action, do we have any public comments?
I do have a question, Mr. Chair. This is Director Natoli. I just wonder what we could replace this with, since we wouldn't have the authority under N323. What could we replace this with? How else could we get the information? I see on the agenda for today's meeting, we don't have a report on new well applications being submitted to the County Department of Public Health. I know we had asked to have that as a standing item on the agenda. Even if it's 0, it'd be nice to know that's something, but it doesn't necessarily give us amounts. It just tells us there have been no applications or there was 1 application. So I'm just wondering how we can replace the information we would have received through this.
Susan Cola, please go ahead and unmute. Thank you.
I think the recommendation is to act on this, and if you would like further discussion, to come back on that.
Thank you, council. I think that makes sense.
Any other comments, questions from the board? Public comments on this item?
I do not have any hands raised.
I'll make a motion then on this item to rescind the well verification procedures, but to also direct staff to return with an alternative, I guess, for us to still be involved with LA County to understand how many wells are being permitted and potential impacts it may have on our basin without citing the executive order.
Just Director Singletary, do we have to rescind the well form also?
Correct. Yeah. I think it's both forms, the procedures and the form.
This is Director Natoli. I second the motion.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Director Welsh,
Yes.
Director Singletary,
Yes.
Director Natoli,
Aye.
Vice Chair Nguyen,
Yes.
Chair Wang.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Is that?
So the next item on our agenda is solicitation of items to be discussed at the next regular board meeting.
Mr. Chair,
Oh, yes.
this is Director Natoli. I'd like perhaps an update and a summary at our next meeting about what we have said in the GSP that we still need to do to fill data gaps, what DWR has asked us to do that perhaps we have not done yet, and if we could get if it's possible, a general timeline for, I have to use the I word, Mr. Chair, implementation. Or whether that's even possible, because implementation depends on financing and who's figured that out.
Thank you, Director Natoli. Any other items, any other the board? If I may just add one item for next board meeting. I know this was mentioned a couple of times in public comments. I believe we have been moving on the seawater intrusion well and putting in the additional monitoring wells that was presented maybe, I want to say like 2 or 3 meetings ago. Maybe to just get an update on that, because we have been working with USGS to try to identify a location for the saltwater intrusion monitoring well.
Thank you. Any other items? Seeing none, the next item is item number 10.
All right. So
think there's
nothing else.
public-
The meeting's adjourned at.
Oh, sorry, we do have one public comment. Yes. Go ahead, Margot Griswold.
Again, sorry. I'm just asking a question about the governor's rescission of the executive order N323 and N. Doesn't that sort of just leave you with no way to manage? Or I guess we aren't really managing the groundwater. We're just reporting on whether it's sustainable. I'm not clear on what he did there. If anyone has any insights, I'd appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other public comments?
No other public comments.
All right, then this meeting's adjourned at 9:57 a.m. Thank you, everyone, for attending the meeting today.
Thank you.